Hello, this is Team Estimate 2533, and this video will cover how we went about autograding different types of questions. And so this video will kind of closely follow the autograding documentation that we've created. And as a side note, the documentation that we're covering is the autograding questions documentation right here. And so this video is going over how to autograde simple questions. So it's going over um, pages 3 through 9 within the documentation, which just starts right here. So kind of getting into it, one of the first types of questions that need to be autograded or that can be autograded are these kind of multiple choice, drop down, drag and drop kind of questions where a student is given kind of a bunch of options here and then they just have to select one. And then you have to, within the code say which ones are wrong and which option's right. And so to kind of go about doing that, so the PL multiple choice elements here, with all, or so the PL multiple choice essentially creates this format here for the drop down option, and then each PL answer element then creates an option within the kind of drop down options list. And so to simply auto grade this type of question, you just need to declare, okay, which option is correct or which options are correct and which options are incorrect. And you can simply do that by within each PL answer element, there's an attribute called correct. And if you set that value to true, then it means that this option is correct. And then if you set it to false, then it means that this answer is incorrect. And then kind of doing a quick demo here. So, for the very first question, we're saying that only the program memory option is correct. So if I select program memory, and then kind of put in some other values. So I'll just pick some random values here. Or I guess for component 2, right, the correct option is central processing unit. So let's select that here. And then for component 3, the correct option is data memory. But just to make sure that the auto grading works, let's pick a different option. So I will pick anything else other than data memory. And then for the rest, I'm just going to pick random values. All right. And then I will save and grade to make sure that the auto grading works. And here we can see that it does recognize that program memory and central processing unit for the first two components are correct. And then like for component 3, dream sequence, which was right here, was marked to be an incorrect option, is graded to be incorrect. And the same kind of goes for the rest of these options that were randomly picked. All right, and then if we move to a different type of question that uses kind of these text box responses where a student has to type in a value. The way we go about auto grading these is that we first, within server.py, we need to set up correct answer parameters to say, or we need to set up correct answer variables for all of the correct answer options that there can be. Or for every question that needs a correct answer, we need to make a correct answers variable. So like for the first one, the correct answer, or the first correct answer variable, we're going to call it 1A, and this is going to be the correct answer for 1A. So for this first question here, and we're going to give it the value 80. And then to actually use this correct answer variable, we are going to come here, and so we're using a PL integer input. That's what this is right here. And kind of similar to the PL answer elements, the PL integer input element has an attribute to where you can essentially define its correct answer. But with the PL integer input element, instead of that attribute being called correct, it's called answer's name. And instead of setting it to be a true or false value, you can set it to kind of be any value. And so we set it to this 1a value, or 1a variable, which has the value of 80, which we defined as a correct answer variable within server.py. And then to check to make sure that that works, we can say this is 80. And then similar for the next problem here, we define the first part of 1b to have a correct answer of 128. And we store that in the variable 1b1. And then we actually use that to define the correct answer for the second question. And so that was 128. And then here I'll use an incorrect, or I'll type an incorrect value in for the third question, where that should be this kind of 8-digit hex value. But I'm just going to give a kind of random value. Same thing for the rest, just to show off the auto grading. Hit save and grade. And then we can see here that kind of matching with the correct values here. 80 and 128 were the correct values for the first two questions, and those were graded correctly. And then these last set of questions, we typed in incorrect values here, where they mostly needed to be 8-digit hex values. And yeah, because we just typed in random values that also kind of don't match what we have defined here, they are then marked as incorrect, and students would not get points for those. So then for these types of questions, instead of being able to just define the correctness and that value just within the HTML file for like something like PL integer inputs, you have to define the correct answer within a variable in server.py and actually set that variable to the element that you want to in the HTML file. And then another type of question that you could have are short answer questions. And for these questions, they are really hard to kind of auto grade because you can't really define what the correct answer is for this question or for these types of questions, because the student could give any kind of response to these questions, and it's really hard to account for all the different responses that you could get. So for these questions, these are not auto graded, and these are instead manually graded. So the student would type in their response, and then they would submit their code, and it wouldn't be graded right away. The a professor or a TA would then have to come in, look at their answer, and then manually grade this question. Because as you can see here, these questions, so these 4 text box questions, are PL rich text editor elements, and with these elements, there is no attribute to set the correct answer. So these have to be manually graded.